is slightly out of focus. I apologize. Whatever. Here we are again.
Here we is again.
How's our audio levels looking?
We're here without Harambe.
As
As we
on
have been
our
since
lonely minds.
2016.
And now there's only well, let's call 30 seconds ago the start of the podcast. Better than our usual, like, however many minutes we have to add before I set the timer.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's like I can't tell how much more fiddling around to get the settings right you're going to do before we, like, roll into it.
Well, now we're rolling into it.
Now we're rolling into it. Now
Right.
we're calling attention to the fact that we're rolling into it.
As we so often do.
But
And now I can't discreetly look at the clock. Like, I gotta lean over
I
and
don't know why it's in the corner like that. That's weird.
Like,
Full screen.
that
there
doesn't
we
help.
go. Is that better?
That makes it worse. That, like, the
Really?
camera completely covers it from my perspective.
can you
How about
see
over
if
here?
you move it to the Pesto Bismol?
Yeah, put it on in front of the pesto
All
bismol.
the way over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Now you've got to
Now
turn.
you have to turn it very
Well,
indiscreetly. Look at
As long
it.
as somebody can see the time. I can kind of turn and see how long the recordings are going. Inside baseball. Everyone's favorite baseball. Let's
Usually
see.
they're outdoor stadiums, though.
Yeah. When was the last time we recorded?
It's
been a few
be in a
weeks.
minute.
It's been a
Because not so much. I mean, we were kind of busy, but it was mostly because Riley got like a bad cold, and then we got busy when he was sort of feeling better.
yeah.
We had our quad birthday party, stuff with friends, floated the river, got really sunburnt. Nathan had Nathan things going on. Have you released a video?
I'm still working on it. I'm getting like there's phases to these, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got the audio all put together for the most part. I'm just laying down a base layer of like gameplay and cutscene to like illustrate points before I go in to add the PNG emotes and the other floating doodads. This is gonna be a long one, so it's a behemoth of a video. But I'm kind of proud of the way like some of the points come together and some of the way way it's framed, the way it's like for a 15-minute video, the pacing's actually okay. So, yeah, I'm chugging along.
Nice. I made a short,
You did.
as promised, in our first video
As
podcast.
promised in the video podcast where we talked about doing shorts, which you had to make a short about doing shorts, and
And how about how much they're terrible, and making some very verbose closed captions for them.
right, because that's how we have to do.
I just want to see
Shorts.
how the view.
How do the view do?
Happy America, by the way.
Yeah,
That
America was birthed.
America Day was a thing. that
Also, we last released an episode the 30th of May.
That's
So
it's been we missed you guys missed all of June. I think that our podcast actually releasing, I'm a bad podcaster. I can't remember when we post stuff.
I mean, you've been
Hopefully
doing
the backlog.
pretty-
13 views on the short after all that effort. I got distracted.
Well, now you need to do a short about us getting 13 views
On our first short.
Because
see, clearly these YouTube shorts aren't effective at all because this one only got 13 views. Like,
Yep.
people they're always talking about how the YouTube shorts
To prove a point,
support-
we must
sup-
continue to make
su-
YouTube
support
shorts,
the algorithm.
decrying how poorly YouTube shorts serve our purposes.
and the thing is, they're algorithmically served as you scroll infinitely. So it's like, what else are they scrolling where they get three white guys in the basement talking about Catholic perspective on movies and stuff?
Good point.
Like, there's not much of an
Yeah,
algorithm
you're
to point to
not,
that.
You're not gonna find, like, nobody's content is similar enough to
Yeah,
this
that's true.
that people find it based on other
It is
things
nifty
they're
though.
looking at.
They make it so there's like a little button where you can find what podcast those clips from, because it's like YouTube knows like people use this for podcast clips.
And for other like stream clips and video clips, like that is now a thing. So.
I guess it doesn't help that these meta commentary clips about YouTube Shorts aren't going to do anything to tell people what this podcast is about.
But that's the funny bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I just specifically said, oh, we're three guys in a basement talking about Catholic perspective.
Oh,
on
there we go.
stuff.
That's our SEO bit.
There you go.
Mission accomplished.
Search
Nutshell.
engine optimization.
Elevator pitch.
If you want to listen to three Catholic nerds talk about movies,
About nerd stuff.
about nerd stuff,
Mm-hmm.
You've come to the right place.
like and subscribe, and follow, and bells, and whatever.
Leave a review. I'm still biased towards the audio only format.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you can follow there too.
If you're any platform you're listening on, thanks for doing that. We appreciate it.
If you're staring at our faces, hello.
Shout out to some of the people coming over from
From my
Nathan's
streaming stuff.
Yeah, congratulations. You won the treasure hunt. This is Nathan's face.
This is what I look like under the
Enjoy.
helmet I drew.
Yep. His face doesn't blink blue. That's just the light of the helmet.
Right, exactly. I thought that was actually kind of funny. There was a couple streams where one person in particular was like, I can't find what you're talking about. I'm like, it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. I pinned it on the pinned tweet on my profile. It's me talking about the podcast I'm in. You look at the first comment, it's a link to the website. It's like 4 clicks and you see my face. It's
Yeah.
like, I made it super easy to dox me in case I ever say something cancelable, which, as a Catholic dude on social media, that might come up at some point. Who
It
knows?
might. We'll see. Depends on how
On
whether you tell women that it's a good thing to want to be a mother, and the entire
yeah.
internet misinterprets what you're saying.
Well, if in some strange twist of fate we're ever giving commencement speeches, like if we reach that level, then maybe change your address or something, Nathan. But
here's the thing:
in the meantime,
if I'm going to give a commencement speech, like where would I give it? I was homeschooled.
yeah,
I'm going to give a commencement speech.
you don't
to
understand.
my
It'll be inspiring story. Homeschooler gives college commencement speech.
No, I would do it for my younger brother's high school commencement.
Yeah,
It would just be me talking to my family about
you're like, good job.
good
job, Simon.
Do a job. Get graduated.
Yeah.
Yay.
You could get invited to speak at Benedictine College.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Then we can say things.
Then we can
Then we
say
can say
things.
things.
Yeah, that's what you do at Benedictine College.
Yeah.
You say things.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you're done saying things, people wearing dresses walk in a circle with paper.
Yep. Inside and outside.
Inside and outside.
That is a very strange way to frame it.
That's why I framed it like
You don't even have the paper sometimes. It's just a leather thing.
It's
that
just a
holds the
thing
paper.
that's
Yeah,
gonna hold the paper at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the paper comes later. It's
I don't think I've ever been to a maybe. Okay, actually, that's not true. At your commencement at the tech school, did they hand you? Was it the frame things or?
it was the frame thing.
Okay, I don't think I've ever been to a commencement where they actually have the little roll like you see in all the
No,
movies.
that is very old fashioned.
Yeah, maybe some high schools will do that. I don't know.
Yeah. My high school had just the frame thing. still.
Wait, no, I should know better because I worked at a high school and I literally took like 4,000 pictures of graduations. I can't remember if at that particular high school they had like a little roll. They might have. I've only been gone for a year. I should
Sounds like
remember this
something they
stuff.
would do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know they would give because it was a Catholic school. They'd give out a cross, like Shoot, dang. All right, I don't remember.
But also, like, I feel like that's probably a relic of an older time,
Right,
largely. That is now just cultural shorthand in media
I don't think there's
for
really any
graduations.
colleges that do it.
No.
Because for a lot of people, you can walk without knowing if you're actually graduated or not. I've yet to hear a story of somebody who went to commencement and didn't graduate. But you never know. I'm sure it's happened.
I mean, I could say someplace very old-fashioned, like Harvard, still doing that.
Harvard Yad. I was near Harvard about a year ago.
When you were in Boston.
I was in Boston. A lot smaller than you'd think it'd be.
Well, a lot of things about those little coastal towns were a lot smaller.
Very dense, yeah.
Very dense.
A lot more akin to the European cities they came from.
It's like they were settled and built by Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they expanded west, they're like, oh, we actually have space to do things.
Sprawl.
We're not all stuck on one tiny rock and can only build upward to make tall buildings because it's a very tiny island rock.
Mm-hmm. Down here, we have to dig very, very far down to find rock to build tall buildings.
Right.
So that's why there's not a ton of them where we're at. Fun soil science fact. So we're going to straight up say it. There's going to be another short hiatus, probably, because Riley is going to be on holiday, we'll say, for a few weeks.
I will be on various travels at the very least.
I suppose you'll still be working.
Out of
I will be
state.
working, and I will be working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going to visit my dad's. I'm still working.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough vacation
And then
time
youth
to take
camp.
2 weeks off. And then youth camp is absolutely not rest.
No.
It's great. It's a delightful time serving
Managed
the youth.
chaos.
But it's a piece of work. You know, burning the candle at both ends, going to bed at midnight to 1 if you're on making sure the kids go to bed duty,
Mm-hmm.
and getting up at 5:30 to 6 to do a holy hour in the morning. And it's exhausting.
How many days is that again?
For the actual camp is 4 days.
But you have to be
There's a
there
couple
early.
days of prep
Yeah.
beforehand.
So that'll be interesting. That'll be most of July. So you might miss out on most of July. We'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe.
I will be back for a couple days, so
Oh, we could squeeze one in.
I'll be like the Tuesday through Thursday of that week when I get back.
Cool.
I'll be in town, so we could potentially squeeze one in over that time.
Assuming we have something we've decided to talk about.
Mhm.
We have a couple things in the holster.
Yeah.
Speaking of things we're squeezing in, we're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Riley.
What are we doing today?
What
We got
are
two
we
things.
doing
Which
today?
one are we?
Which one of the
After
things
all
are
that
we doing?
frenzy of setting up the podcast, I had which thing are we talking about?
I thought
We have
this
two.
this one or the other one?
I haven't
Which
read that
one?
one. I'll read that one.
You haven't read that? I thought you said you'd
No,
read
I
this
haven't.
one.
I read a different one.
Oh well, you would love it. So
Well,
you
then
should
let's do that before you get back from your.
You should be able to do it.
Visiting
Now.
Yeah.
It's like Artemis Fowl. It's an easy read.
In which case, the other thing.
The other thing,
The other thing,
namely
philosophical.
Jaws.
Dun 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 dun
Dun dun dun dun dun dun dun dun dun dun dun.
It's crazy how John Williams doing one movie soundtrack made two notes, one like harmonic movement.
That is the shark sound.
It's the shark sound. And
It's the smallest you can do. It's just a minor second.
right.
Mhm.
But the
Done.
minor second has become the shark sound. Like even in
Like that's how they teach it to you in ear training. It's like
Jaws.
Jaws. Like that's what
Mhm.
they tell you to when you hear that to like recognize the tonality of that interval.
Yep.
It's Jaws.
And
But like it's worked its way into like all corners of sharkism. Like I was playing a Wind Waker to get some footage, and had like the sharks coming up onside me, and you hear the dun 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 dun. It's not like the Jaws
there's a little bit
theme,
more.
but there's like that minor second movement all over there because that is just the shark sound. It's crazy.
So we're gonna try to challenge ourselves as we have in the past to try to make more succinct the summaries.
Well, the summary's pretty succinct.
Yeah,
We've
it's
got-
in this one. Yeah.
We've got a little town off Cape Cod on an island called Amity Island where this whole film takes place. For the
Every
most part.
summer, the tourists come out for the 4th of July weekend, and
It's the big weekend.
And
for-
It's
Adrian
the thing
Brody-
that keeps the town alive.
what was the name of the? What was the name
and
of
then
the
there's the
policeman?
thing that keeps the town not alive in the water suddenly this
Sharks
year.
have been eating people,
And
and
shark.
And shark has
and
been,
shark has been eating people.
And there have been like reports to the police, and so we meet our Cooper. No, Cooper's the. I looked up the characters' names because
Is it Brody?
it was Brody.
Brody is the police chief.
definitely not Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brodyquest is the chief of police.
Dude.
That's the title of the episode. Is Brodyquest. Shark Brodyquest.
I just gotta Photoshop Adrian Brody's face over
There we go.
the
Yeah.
guy.
So no, we got police chief
All
Brody,
some permutation.
who's
of that
trying
we can
to, the body washes ashore. People report it. He's trying to figure out what's
We got to
going
close
on.
the beach.
Gotta close the beach. But no, it's almost 4th of July weekend.
The city
We
fathers
can't-
are like, "Hey, we're going to be out a lot of money if people can't go to the beach. The whole
It-
town depends on this."
Mhm.
So he's like, "Open up the beach despite the risk." And then people keep getting eaten by sharks, and so finally, a lady whose son got chomped, or puts up a huge bounty. So this old shark hunter Quint is like, oh, and then they call in, what about Bob, Dr. Richard Dreyfuss over to, Dr. Hooper to talk about to research and see what kind of shark this is, and he's like, this is going to be a big and probably a great white. So they all the three of them get together on Quint's boat and go hunt the shark.
The townspeople come together because of the bounty, all going out in the lake, and they catch a shark, which later Hooper and Brody cut open, and there's no sign of it being the man-eater, so they're gonna need to get a boat and go out there and find the actual shark.
So they do just that. They go on a boat.
After the city mayor let people on the beach on 4th of July, which led to yet another attack, bleeding to the last straw, we've got to go out there and get them.
So they're out sailing around looking for the shark, and they have several run-ins with them. They shoot harpoons with floaty barrels attached to try to tire them out. And, you know, a bunch of suspenseful scenes. There's some moments of bonding with the three guys. You get to learn about Hooper's past a little bit as a researcher,
as well as Quint's past as like in World War II
on the Indianapolis, and he hates sharks because of all his horrible experience with the ship that sank, and all of his buddies got eaten by sharks. And they should have gotten a bigger boat though, because this shark is a fighter and it beats up the boat a bunch, and it starts to sink. Hooper goes down in a shark cage and has to swim away from the shark cage because he gets smashed up by the shark, and he hides. Quint gets eaten by the shark, and this Chekhov's oxygen tank ends up in the shark's mouth. Adrian Brody shoots it with a gun and blows up the shark, and they swim off back to shore. Now the strife is over, and the movie's over.
The end. Very succinct. So, like,
yeah, we did it.
We did it.
I didn't.
That was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, plot-wise, this is
it's a simple plot.
Very simple film.
Yeah. So what are cool things we like about Jaws?
Well, for one thing, like, just on a technical level, like, Spielberg's a really good director.
Yeah.
Not only is it a good suspense film about the water and being in the water and the fear of the water and the sharks, but also, like, there's a lot of character to the characters in this film, you know? Like, Spielberg's really good at, like, making very endearing or memorable characters.
Yeah.
So
I guess we can go through the characters, because we got Adrian Brody, Chief Brody. He's his name isn't Adrian. He and his family moved up from I think he was like a New York City cop, and they wanted to move to this quiet vacation town to be chief of police, to slow down life a little bit so he can be with his family more and have something more relaxing.
And have something safer than...
Not get mugged in New York.
Yep.
Or deal with muggers, as the case may be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because this is New York in the 70s. So, and now he's dealing with all this other crazy stuff that he wasn't expecting with this
small town politics, the
shark
whole
attacks.
thing.
Yeah.
Which the shark attack is a freak accident type of thing. Like, it's a great white. It's not supposed to be in this part of the world, right?
He's under a lot of pressure to...
At this time of year.
In
this time of day.
country.
Localized entirely in your island.
In your
resort.
idyllic island town.
Yes.
May
May I see it?
No. But yeah, no, he's under a lot of pressure from all corners. You know, he's trying to keep things, stable with his family. He's trying to keep his boys safe. He's trying to keep the town safe. He's trying to deal with the city fathers who are trying to keep everybody, the economy flowing. And
all the while, it is revealed that he had a swimming accident as a young man.
You never really know the details of the
You don't
swimming
get the
accident.
details of it, but what you do know
He
is
won't go in the water.
Brody is just deathly scared of the water. He cannot stand it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he finds himself in the middle of it at the very end of the film.
It's an odd thing that a man who hates the water lives on an island.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
And I suppose Hooper would be the next guy,
Hooper would be the next
aquatics researcher,
Because he shows up as the
the
town's all whipped up
Oceanographic
into
Society.
He shows up as the town's all whipped into a frenzy trying to catch the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, they're all going to die. These people aren't going about this correctly at all.
They're not taking the right precautions. He looked at the bite and he's like, "Yep, this is going to be a huge."
Look at
shark."
this bite radius. He's like analyzing it. He's like, the size of this thing's got to be so long. And so when they catch the thing, he looks at the mouth and it's like, that ain't it, Chief of
Yep.
Police Brody.
Yep.
Lo and behold, it was not.
And his whole back, he also had a boating accident. He had like a water related accident when he was a kid. He had a shark attack his little boat, but then that traumatic experience made him fascinated with the ocean and sharks specifically.
So now he's the shark expert who gets.
He's also from a family that has money, so he's trying to prove that actually he does belong in the ocean. And then we have Quint, the sailor who also had a traumatic experience with water and sharks. When he was on the USS Indianapolis and the ship got sunk by a Japanese submarine and they were coming back from delivering the atomic bombs. So nobody knew they were there and they couldn't get help for a long time. And sharks were just eating his buddies left and right. And there's this whole thing where the camera zooms in on his face and it's getting all quiet and creaky on the boat. And and he's telling this horrible story. So they're kind of bonding on the boat. And then the shark is rude and attacks them and interrupts it and it's the whole thing. But yeah.
That bonding scene on the boat was actually really great because Quint, being the big seafaring man he is, he's like, look at this scar I got back in the day. And then Hooper's like, oh, check out my scar. I got this in a boating accident too. It's like, oh, well, that's nothing. And they start just comparing injuries.
And then
stories.
Adrian Brody's about to say, some people are going to think he's in the movie. Adrian Brody is about to say what his accident was, and he's just like, never mind. So, kind of a little more reserved and less braggadocious than his counterparts.
Weirdly, Brody's the most like mysterious character in the film. They don't like go into his backstory. Like you'd think old mysterious seafarer Quint would be the mysterious one. No, you get his backstory and you get to kind of understand him pretty well. Mm-hmm. But like Brody, his swimming accident is unclear. His injury he wanted to share is unclear. Likely, if I had to guess, it would be related to being a cop and why he moved.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was like when he was a kid.
Well, no. The injury he was sharing. I don't know if the injury was a swimming injury or whether it was like something he got in the job.
Sure, yeah. Unclear.
But like, that's just a great character.
And then, of course, there's the character of the shark.
Yes, good old Bruce half the time, and then the other half the time it's a puppet.
Yeah.
Because there was an actual, shark they had who was famously named Bruce. Hence why in Finding Nemo, the shark Bruce is named Bruce.
Why trust a shark, right?
Right. But, there's some shots that maybe don't hold up as well today with the shark animatronics.
Even so, it's not, distracting when the shark does show up. It's interesting. They don't show the shark other than the classic fin sticking out of the water until
the very end. There's a couple other shots where it's you got to see the nose of it as it comes up and bites. Mm-hmm. But that's just classic movie monster storytelling. You can't show the whole monster all at once, or else you kind of lose some of that
anticipation.
Yeah.
Well,
and
one of the things I really liked that they did with the shark is when they kept him underwater, but he was attached to a barrel, so you could see the barrels coming up. Mm-hmm. But then, the barrels, they would shoot another barrel on him, and they go all underwater when they're supposed to.
Because the barrels are buoyant, and the more there are, the more buoyant it should be, and the harder time the shark should have staying underwater. But
he still dives.
He's a feisty boy. He still has all the strength and grit to sink a ship, not big enough boat, and carry these barrels around with him.
And also just dismantle a shark cage, which is designed to keep sharks out.
Mm-hmm.
It's professional gear that this marine biologist brought into the boat, but he tears it up like it's nothing.
Mm-hmm. Like a pop can. Spielberg might have done a few movies before this, but this is definitely one of his biggest
breakout hit.
Yeah, his breakout hit for sure. Yeah. And one thing he does really well is he sort of gradually increases the tension with moments of relief in between where you have a suspense scene here and there. And it's not jump scare stuff either. It's just building tension. I mean, there's a couple of moments of jump scares, I suppose, in them.
Right.
But it's he ratchets it up slowly to at the end, the climax of the movie, it's really suspenseful and all right, are they going to get out of this alive? And I would say it's even more pronounced even than in Jurassic Park. I guess it's an earlier work, so it's a little less nuanced, I suppose.
Sure.
But
but they're like very much cut from the same cloth.
Right. Yeah. You
Like-
definitely see his creative vision.
But the other thing is, like, you watch Jurassic Park, and it's like, you think of Jurassic Park, it's like, oh, it's a dinosaur attack monster movie. But then you watch the movie, it's actually about the characters getting eaten by dinosaurs. And the dinosaurs represent, like, a larger concept and force in the story that they're kind
you
of
have
talking
Jeff Goldblum shirtless on a table, and then you also have the owner of the park mournfully talking about how his motivation while eating ice cream that from the freezers that are now dead.
Right. But also similarly, like,
The kids telling dinosaur jokes to the guy that doesn't like kids after he just saved them from getting attacked. You know, like little moments of peace in between and character, peace and character, punctuated with suspense. Is
Right.
kind of Spielberg's like
Spiel.
signature. Yeah.
that's all over Jaws, including the fact that the shark, like dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, are like the whole concept of evolution, life finds a way, and humans messing with what they don't understand. The shark kind of seems to, I mean, on the surface, he's a big monster eating guys, but you go just under the surface, and there's themes of like these guys' past trauma with the water and the fact that they're on this boat together.
It's not just the shark they're facing.
Right, they're facing themselves,
Yeah. There's man versus nature and man versus self.
like combined into one really neat little package.
Right. And as I've been mulling this movie over in the last couple of weeks, I'm like, it seems like fear is kind of the through line of the whole thing.
Yep.
Fear and people's responses to it. It's kind of the the city fathers are like, we've got to push fear away. We've got to put it down.
They're in
We've
denial.
yeah.
phase.
And some people's response to fear is like attack it head on. It's more of Hooper and Quint's style is head straight into it. In Quint's case, quite recklessly and with little regard for safety strategy or his own life. Hooper a bit more balanced and nuanced approach, and Brody's like run away, never confront, never deal with things.
And yet he is the one that ends up defeating the shark and his fear.
Well, interestingly, like you've got Hooper ultimately was the guy that brought the equipment that dealt the final blow, even though he wasn't there at the final confrontation.
Not really the way he intended.
Right. But then you had Quint, who was literally consumed by the thing he was afraid of. His fear response to go take revenge, essentially.
There's kind of a Captain Ahab element to him.
Yeah. But then you've got, Brody, who finally had to sit up, squarely face it, and kind of integrate a little bit of both, where it's a little bit of a reckless attack, but it's using the oxygen can that was going to blow up. It was the thing that Hooper brought to the table. So it's kind of interesting. It's pretty interesting.
Any other cool stuff we can find in Jaws?
I found Quint's relationship with Hooper to be an interesting character arc.
Yeah.
Is at first he kind of writes him off as the slick college boy who has all the head knowledge but doesn't really know a thing about how any of this goes. He's just a pampered city boy who's in over his head. And Hooper slowly kind of he works his way up to, or down maybe perhaps, to Quint's level and like kind of meets him where he is, uses his language. He speaks more intelligently and like scientifically to Brody, because he's like, you're the only other sane person on this island. But he's like, all right, I've got to meet Quint where he is. I've got to, be a little coarse in my language. I've got to, show off what I know because I'm a capable seaman.
Because he's put in the work, like he's gone on dives, he's, sails ships and stuff like that. He's done the work.
And he slowly gains he gains respect for him over the course of things, and he's like, yeah,
despite being at loggerheads now and again, still.
To the point where at the very end, like Hooper manages to convince Quint to try his method to defeat the shark, which ultimately works about as well as any of Quint's attempts. because it's Jaws.
Yep.
But-
because of his insistence not to call the Coast Guard and smashing the radio when
Yeah.
Brody attempts to.
Because it's a personal fight with this shark. He doesn't want anybody else interfering, and that does him in.
He made it personal. All Brody wanted was to call help and get a bigger boat.
Mm-hmm. Should have gotten a bigger boat.
Which maybe getting help might have been the right move.
Yeah. But I thought it was like there's a little bit of a contrast with like Quint's relationship with Adrian Brody, because he's just sort of like teaching him things, and you weren't gonna let me just pass that off. Actually,
It didn't quite register for a second because I'm just desensitized to it, and then it's like, wait a minute,
Wait.
and then it's like triggered Adrian Brody in my head. I'm like, he is not in this movie. Oh wait.
But yeah, no, like Quint is a lot more friendly, I suppose, towards Brody off the bat. He's like, teaching him fisherman's knots and like all these different things, and just kind of, casually instructing him like, okay, do this. All right, I need you to do this. And then he's just kind of butting heads with Hooper more when they're on the
Although
boat.
the funny thing is, Brody gets on the boat with no knowledge whatsoever, and is the actually incapable one,
Mm-hmm.
where Quint is projecting
Makes
all
several
of
key
that
mistakes,
onto
in fact.
Hooper. Yeah, but like Quint's more willing to like teach him than he is to accept Hooper has knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
which speaks to his stubborn, stuck in his old ways type of mentality.
Yeah, he's waiting on some beautiful boy to save him from his old ways. You want forgiveness? So we get into transcendentals.
This is going to be a bit of a short one. We're going to
Well,
need a bigger
we-
podcast.
Yeah, right.
Or
We're trying to get a grip on our
Our lengths here.
yeah. Well, not
well,
the length so
I
much
think
as-
it's fun to have an hour episode. It's just, yeah, the synopsis, as we kind of discussed the other day, adds relatively little value.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Getting
like
to the meat of it.
people. We're just gonna pause for a little meta podcast discussion while you're
Yep.
inside baseball.
You're in for it now.
I don't know. No, we don't need to do this. We're gonna cut that part.
No, wait.
No,
Nah.
it's-
I don't feel like
let's
editing
see.
it out.
Let's
I don't
let's
edit
finish
it.
our thoughts.
Okay.
And then maybe at the end. Maybe at the end.
Was that pretty much it for cool stuff?
Yes.
More or less. I mean, not everything else.
We could make it a
bonus.
bonus episode. Make it bonus.
Oh my, yeah,
Or just a bonus bit at the end of this episode.
yeah. Let's
if you
do
want.
that.
Post credit scene.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We'll do
It
that.
is a bit of post credit scene. Just to pad the
Just
length.
make it more work. Just make it more. All right, well, it's okay. Truth. What truths can we find in Jaws?
They needed a bigger boat.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're the only sane person in town. He wanted to close the shores, but the mayor wouldn't let him, and people died for it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's greed is bad.
Greed is bad.
Ignoring problems is bad. Not facing your fears is bad. Trying to pretend fear doesn't exist is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
And-
the various people's arcs and the way events turn out help you to realize that in the course of this film.
Charging into a revenge fight with a shark without a bigger boat, also bad.
Yeah, it's almost like virtue lies in the means
Mm-hmm.
and not the extremes.
Yeah.
Because like Brody staying out of the water entirely would not have solved the problem. Obviously, nothing the mayor was doing was going to solve the problem, or rather, everything he was.
Even like the initial people trying to kill the shark were motivated by greed because there was a big reward,
Right.
for the shark.
They weren't there to solve a problem. They were there to make bank.
They were ready to kill any old shark and claim it was the one that did it, which they tried to do, and the mayor wanted to play along.
To pretend the problem had gone away. It's like we caught the shark. Look at this. It's a shark in the newspaper.
but the people's fear was just as undeniable as the shark. Because you had like the graffiti of the shark on the town billboard and things like that, and you had the shark attack when there were hundreds of people there for the 4th of July weekend. Like the busiest time of the year. Like there was no denying the the fear that people had for the shark, as much as there was no denying the shark itself. And like the mayor sort of comes to see that because his own kids were in the water that day when that shark attack happened. So like that's what brings him to his senses. And same deal with like Brody's kids. They were off in what they thought was like a safer area in like this little bay, and they were threatened. So yeah, you try to ignore problems, they just get worse. Especially fear.
You got to face them head on, but not recklessly.
In a measured fashion.
You've got to know what you're getting into.
Respond courageously. Do act, but don't act rashly. Don't refuse to seek assistance.
Yeah.
Don't refuse to get a bigger boat. Call the Coast Guard.
Get help.
Not sponsored by the Coast Guard.
Stop it. Get some
help. Any other truths in Jaws?
That's the main theme. Kind
Yeah.
of main through line.
Yeah. Goodness. Brody's, he's trying to be a good policeman, a good father and all that stuff, a good protector of the town.
Yeah, Brody's doing his best. He's not given much to work with by, the mayor and other people.
He only has like one deputy most of the time.
Yeah. And he's, not sure what to do half the time. Of course, he's been living on the island his whole life, so he's more likely to defer to the other authorities. But, like, Brody as a character, he's afraid of the water. It somehow finds himself on an island for the good of his family. So he's, like, willing to face that fear when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
It takes a big push and shove, but he gets there.
Yeah. And one thing I like about Brody is that he doesn't really let his stress carry over to his family. Like it's like his wife can definitely see it, his kids never really see it. But I like that little moment, like where they're at the dinner table and he's just kind of not eating anything, head in his hands, stressed out. And then like his youngest son is just kind of goofing off with him. So he takes a quick minute to like goof off and share a moment with his son and doesn't like, take it out on his kids, that type of stuff. So
there's actually a really, really great interaction where he's like, hey, give dad a kiss.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I
need it.
Yeah.
So that was just like, oh, what a lovely character moment for this man and his family. It's like, this is a man who cares about his family enough to not drag them under with his work stress.
Yeah. And they're not just concerned about protecting the kids' lives, but they're also like, we don't want them to be afraid of the ocean their whole life. Like, we want to make this a safe place for them, give them a good life. So I appreciate that stuff about Brady.
And then Hooper.
Brody.
Hooper's actually a really good character. He's like the only other sane person on the island, but he comes in with...
He gets a little over his skis a bit when it comes to talking to people and reasoning with them and that side of things. But, he's very well-intentioned, very educated, wants to do the right thing.
And also like him trying to connect with Quint and trying to, like, for the benefit of their mission, for the benefit of just giving Quint another human being to talk to on the boat, because otherwise they were going to tear each other's throats out if the shark didn't.
Yep.
But like his gesture to reach out and approach Quint on his level, to like make that connection and hear his story out, and then
sing shanties together,
sing old shanties together, and just I think he's a really good character who maybe clashes with people personality-wise, but like doing his best and trying to do things correctly and right.
Knows when he's out of his depth.
And also knows when you haven't caught the right shark.
Yeah.
We've got to do this right, or else more people are going to get hurt, and then they do. And he's like, well, you should have listened.
But he doesn't just sit there and be like, told you so. He's like, all right, let's go
solve
deal
the
with
problem.
it. Yeah.
Very
Once
solution-oriented.
and for all. Any other goodness in the movie? I mean, like she's a pretty minor character, but Brody's wife, pretty supportive, good mom and all that. That's pretty much it, I think, for the most part. Townsman number 5, solid dude. Really,
Real salt of the earth person.
Whoever the shopkeeper was that just let him take paint for the signs. You're a real one. You know who you are.
That guy's probably really old by now.
Yeah, if he's still alive. Yeah,
If he's still
It's
alive.
like a 60-year-old movie. It's kind of wild.
It was like 75, 76.
Yeah, 50.
Somewhere. Yeah,
50-year-old movie.
50 something. Yeah, that's how math works. Beauty. It's a 70s movie, so it's like not necessarily the best cinematography for a movie of its time, but it's very like it does the job.
Does
it
the
needs
job
to
very
do.
well.
Yeah.
And the shark effects are, again, some of the shots
Strategically done. Like
strategically done.
they try to hide as much as they can.
Which benefits both the tone of the suspense, but also the how timeless the effects are. And it's all practical effects, obviously.
And that's the thing you see with like monster movies is that you delay showing the monster as long as possible because in seeing the monster in the light, you sort of gain power over it and are able to defeat it like symbolically. And you see that in Jaws in particular because you don't see the shark till the end of the movie till they little bits at a time till they fight it, but then they see it and they're able to blow it up, that sort of thing, kind of like an alien. You're able to see the monster, kill the monster. I'm sure there's multiple
name
other
any
monster
number
movies.
of monster movies where they do that.
Yeah,
Also, in terms of beauty, John Williams soundtrack.
of course.
Again, the man.
Usually the highlight of the whatever film.
I mean, he's great, and every time he works with Spielberg, it's just pure magic. The combo made in heaven. And this man took, an interval and put it into the pop culture lexicon as this interval is the shark interval. Anytime that those two notes are played next to each other, it's accompanied by a shot that's like in the water. It's like, how did he manage to find that? It's like these two notes perfectly match the vibe of something you can't see just under the surface. Or maybe I just think that because it happened in Jaws and people kept repeating it.
Yeah. It was incredibly influential.
Yeah. Which this was like the first blockbuster summer film, like ever, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a very impactful benchmark touchstone film, something like that.
It launched Spielberg's career. It created the summer blockbuster as a concept, so people kept chasing after.
For better
that.
or worse, depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
But you got some great movies in that along the way.
And also, it just there was a whole genre of shark monster movie ripoff that it spawned.
Sharknado.
Ultimately culminating in Sharknado.
Yeah, the pinnacle of which was Sharknado.
Right. That's the maybe not the pinnacle, but
Yeah.
that's the pop culture example of this is where it went. And Sharknado would not exist without Jaws.
No, certainly not.
Now, also, Jaws has more character depth than even its own sequels and rip-offs.
Yeah.
Because it's a Spielberg film and he tells stories about characters, not random death events.
When it comes to Spielberg projects, by and large, you're better off just watching the first movie. I don't know how involved he was with the subsequent films.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Same deal with Jurassic Park. I've only ever seen the first one, but
The first one's the best one.
Yeah, be sure not to watch Schindler's List too. It's just not as good as the first one.
Oh man. Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, this one's good.
Yeah. Quite good.
Uh,
Beauty.
Unity. Shark.
Shark.
Shark
Fear.
Fear of the
Fear and how you deal with it.
fear of something that's under the surface, and how do you acknowledge it? How do you address it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not an obvious problem that they're dealing with. They're dealing with something that is, evolved to be difficult to find in the water.
Yeah.
So do you pretend it's not there because you can't see it? Or do you seek it out, and how do you seek it out?
Mm-hmm. Or do you wait till it comes up and bites you in the face
Exactly, and then it's too late.
to do much of anything about it?
Yeah.
Um,
And it's kind of great that, he took what on the surface is a story about Monster Shark, but made the characters have themes that,
it could have just been a
also-
movie about chasing a shark, and it
and
would
it
have
would
been a
have
lot
done just as well.
Yeah, would have been a lot more boring.
Yeah. But it's a story about characters and how they deal with things. It's great.
I think that's something, going back to our discussion however long it was ago about things not being very original, is that they actually took the time to make characters that are worth caring about in this film. And it's not just a chase down a shark movie, even if that's what everybody remembers it for, and that's fine.
And that's the funny thing about some of these, old legacy films where it's King Kong about a movie about the ape climbing the Empire State, when there's actually a lot more going on thematically than the final climactic fight.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs are getting out and eating people, but there's more going on thematically that later sequels and remakes forget to put into it,
Because they're so focused on the cool thing they want to feature that they don't really put a lot of it.
I think it's just kind of the way the zeitgeist remembers it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's that was kind of a thing that deterred me from being interested in Jaws for a long time, is because in my head it had this reputation of being dumb, pointless monster movie. I didn't know Spielberg directed it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I had never considered it being something worthwhile because I didn't know it had this kind of character interaction, and very Spielbergy. So that's kind of the case for a lot of those movies.
Yeah.
The way the popular culture remembers it is different, or maybe lacks a vision to the substance and depth that things have.
There's a lot of films, and this is probably not, or this isn't an exception at all, that you have to sort of tune out what everybody else says about it and just take it for what it is. Just take it in and form your own opinions about it.
Honestly, if it was all that pop culture remembered it as, if that's all that it was to it, it wouldn't be the film pop culture remembers.
Yeah.
Really. If some of these classics that are remembered for years are classics that are remembered for years for good reasons.
Mm-hmm. In this case, they remember it, the action parts of it because they care about the characters, which builds the suspense more when you care about what's happening to somebody on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true for a lot of these kind of classic horror films or monster films, where it's if they didn't build up the character of Sarah Connor in The Terminator, right, and make her an interesting character, people wouldn't care beyond Schwarzenegger. All everyone ever remembers is Schwarzenegger's lines and being a robot, but the person he's hunting is a character that you don't want to see die.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas later films are we're just gonna watch as many people die in cool ways to this monster that you remember liking in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And but none of the characters in Alien Covenant are nearly as cool as Alan Ripley. So come on.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the part where we get to the postscript commentary, or do we?
Yes, we have.
Yep.
I can't find the right word for what I want.
We're challenging ourselves.
We've gone long-winded enough on this part of it.
Yeah. So that's the transcendental analysis.
And some meta flavor commentary of cool things at the end.
I think we've proved that we can still fill time without having to do the synopsis.
Nobody doubted that.
No, never.
We have substance to talk about.
We can talk about anything ad nauseum.
Yeah.
We have that power.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna try to do the synopses shorter, and emphasize more of the analysis, which is more the meat of the podcast.
Because if you want the synopsis, ultimately you can watch this. This is a good movie. I recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the things we review are good things we recommend. Very few are we like, don't watch this.
Most often, the things we don't like them, and we don't want to spend any more time looking at them than we have to. Except for the occasional thing where I'll grudgingly
have to acknowledge it exists to talk about in some form.
Like Tim Burton.
Well, that was
And the one Tim Burton thing we did, I was surprised by how much I liked.
It was all right. You can go listen to that episode.
Is that one on YouTube or is it just?
It might be
not
in the
on
backlog.
YouTube yet.
It'll be in the
Alright.
backlog soon, probably.
Otherwise, it's on.
It was like in the 60s, wasn't it?
Yeah, it'll be
It'll be like half
months.
a year before you get to listen to that.
Anyway, so if they want to find that or any other things, where can they find us?
At Palapapus on Twitter and Facebook. If you really want to see posts I made
If
2
you
years ago,
still exist on Facebook
it exists.
anymore?
Anyway,
If you exist on Facebook.
yeah, that's really the key. We're on Twitter at Palapapus. You can find us on YouTube, Palladium Papus. You can email us with questions, comments, concerns, or complaints or suggestions for future episodes at palladiumpapus@gmail.com.
And we're on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
And
Google,
No.
Spotify,
Spotify.
Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Those are the places. So
Those are the ones that survived.
The great podcast culling
yeah,
of 2022.
of 1907.
Rip Google Podcasts and Stitcher.
Nobody used Rip Stitcher. Nathan's mom liked using it.
She's recovering. It's fine.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Rip,
She's doing fine.
Rip
now.
Stitcher.
She's getting along without it.
Yeah,
that's an interesting turn of phrase.
Rip Stitcher. Isn't that just a zipper? Yeah, I guess we got nothing else for you. So we'll talk to you next time we talk to you.
Except for the meta commentary after the credits.
Oh, okay, we're still doing it. Okay.
Well, you can roll the outro and then
Yeah,
you can kind of fade back into the post credit.
right on. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Psych, we're still talking.
Yeah. we're still talking. So here's where I talk about why I think the synopsis has if we don't do anything original with it, it doesn't add much and we should cut it. Because everyone I've ever talked to about trying to encourage them to listen to the show either says, I've seen this thing and I like it already and I don't need it to be summarized for me, or I have not yet seen this thing and don't want to know the details about what happens.
And that may still, the latter may still come across.
Right, that might still happen, but there is almost no circumstance in which the synopsis is valuable, because that covers almost the full domain of people.
Yeah.
Right. There's going to be a very small group in the middle where it's like, I don't care if you spoil it, and this story content is necessary backdrop for some of the conversation we're going to have.
Right.
But you get too far
We
into
can
the
always-
weeds about it.
Like we did, we just fill in the necessary story details when we're doing the analysis.
Right.
So it serves that purpose. It fills
And
that
it
need.
fits the flow better and makes an entire section of the podcast not immediately skippable for 90% of the audience.
Right. Yeah.
Just block in some basic details, and then as they become relevant to the cool things and the transcendentals, we can then backfill.
Yeah. And part of it just evolved out of the way my brain works, where I more or less, the synopsis is a way for me to replay the thing in my head and remind me what's going
And
on.
enumerate every detail that you
Yeah.
like about the thing.
That's tough, because that's
But
just how I...
Enumerating cool details has its own dedicated section called cool stuff.
Yep.
But I remember distinctly on the Breath of the Wild episode, you're like, you could get fire weapons, and you could get electric weapons, and you could get
James,
ice
shut up.
weapons, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with anything.
I just think they're neat. So, yeah.
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 That's about what I have to say about layout.
So
That's all
we're
I have to
continually
say
trying to
about
make
that.
the
We're gonna
podcast
try to
better.
make them snappy and probably humorous.
And if I really want to grind out some work one of these days, I might do more clips than just meta commentary for shorts to see if that gets any growth for the podcast. We'll see. Who knows?
Definitely do the meta commentary shorts because they're funny.
Yeah.
Concept.
I'm going to keep doing those for sure. Yeah. There's other projects we have maybe in the works. We'll see. You'll learn about it. On top of the backlog, there will also be hopefully the backlog of the gameplay videos we for your
Twilight Princess.
YouTube. A little perk for your YouTube people. There's some people who expressed interest from Nathan's side of the woods that want to see the Twilight Princess playthrough, and they'll probably get a kick out of. They'll probably especially get a kick out of the ones that you play, like when you did Halo, Melee Run, more or less, Warthog, those moments.
Here's the thing: they watch me play like Mirror's Edge and the Republic Commando games, and it's like, then Halo will make perfect sense to them because all I did in those games was punch and stab. So.
Yep.
But we're getting too long with the postscript up.
Yeah.
We're not even to an hour yet.
It's not even to an hour yet. Are we?
We're not even to an hour.
We can do postscript.
Well, stay tuned because there'll be maybe more gaming stuff in the future if life
Maybe,
allows
hopefully,
it.
possibly.
We'll try and
Yeah.
figure out some format to make that work.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we'll at least this is me saying this, so I'll actually make a commitment to do it.
At the very least, finish Twilight Princess.
At the very least, we'll finish Twilight Princess.
I can help edit.
There's a lot of
after
great
I've
fun
finished
that
mine.
happened in that.
Oh, a lot of great fun.
Yeah, for some more than others, but I want to get that out there and finish up the other projects we have in there. Some of them are shorter, like the Finding Nemo run. Obviously, didn't last very long.
That's just going to be one Rage highlights video.
Yeah,
If we get around to doing that, which we could.
yeah. I won't get very committal on the other things we've discussed doing, but they might happen and they might be cool and they might be fun and you'll learn about it when you need to. So yeah, postscripts, first ever postscripts, no bumper. You don't get that, not even on YouTube, especially not on YouTube,
Yeah,
but
it's
not
sort
even
of
on audio.
bumped by the outro.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. So for real this time, goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.
Now for the postscript.